Hi there, I'm John and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm John from Nigeria, and on this channel I review books. I do everything bookish, from book hauls to singular book reviews. And if you're a fan of like essay-length written reviews, I write for the website Life on Books. I'll put it up here, so please check it out if you enjoy those sort of things. But I think I've not been on here for a while. I think it's over a month now from when, I don't know when I last looked at my stats, but I think I mentioned in a past video I had some housing challenges, and that has been the reason. As you can see, I'm in a new place now, so I have not had somewhere. I stayed with a friend for about 2 weeks after I was displaced. Then I eventually was able to get somewhere like last week Friday, and that's where I am at now. So no longer the old wall, but yes, so it was just a tumultuous time. There was nowhere to really film. I did not have my books with me. I did not have my tripod stand with me, and yeah, it was not my place, so it was not also very comfortable to put something on the spot. And I have not even like read so much in that time. This is like the first day of March, so happy new month, guys. I think in January I was able to read 2 books. In February I could not finish anything because life was happening to me in unprecedented ways. Like, and if it's not that I will not say I did not expect it. I did not just expect it at all. In fact, I don't know what I'm saying. I did not expect it, and it destabilized me so much that there was really little time to read, write, or do anything. And all I was thinking was just gathering funds to move to somewhere, to a place, of course, because I could not stay with my friend permanently as it was not convenient for them. But yeah, I have missed the space. I have missed you guys on here, and there's currently, like, I don't know if it's children playing around, so there's currently some sort of noise in the neighborhood where I stay now. But I decided to film still. I just woke up like, let's say, almost an hour ago, and I wrote out an outline earlier in the day when I was like still having some energy in me, but have been so sleepy. I did not sleep so much last night, and yeah, I decided to do like a sort of wrap up, catch up, tell you guys what I've been reading. And yeah, so let's get into it. The 2 books I finished in January were relatively short books, but the first one was Pedro Paramo by Juan Rulfo, and this is translated from the Spanish by Margaret Sayers Peden, and it has a foreword by the writer Susan Sontag, who is a friend of my favorite writer, Sigrid Nunez. But yeah, I think I mentioned in my, I don't know if it was a December video, I took this home, and early in January I just got the pull to start it. And yeah, a friend of mine who is Mexican, one of my dear friends, was very excited I was reading this because it seems Rufo is kind of a notable author, even though he did not have many works. I think he had this one novel and another collection of short stories. And yes, this is also said to be one of like the inspirations for Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude. So I decided to pick it up. It's 100 and something, less than 130 pages, and it follows a man whose mother, while she's dying, she tells him about his father, Pedro Paramo, and they hail from like this small village. They hail from this place called Comala in another place where they are not currently living. But his mother is dying, and she tells him that, oh, this man was his father, and he needs to go and seek out his father and like get everything that was taken from them. So this is a book that follows the main character. I think his name is Juan, if I'm not mistaken. Our main character, Juan, because I think we only see his name a few times in this novel, but our main character, he eventually decides to keep his promise to his mother. And when he finally goes to Komala, he learns that almost every inhabitant of the city is dead, and the city is inhabited by like ghosts of the people who used to live there. And his father, he learns that his father, Pedro Paramo, is dead. But the novel, what we begin to see is that it kind of feels like an exploration of a town, and it kind of gives us the history of this town through Pedro Paramo going there to learn about his father, he ends up learning about everything that ended up leaving the town like almost devoid of inhabitants, because we do not really know at some point if the people who he sees are living. We learn that most of them are dead, right? But then there are times you think some of them are living, but then it just pulls back the veil and you end up seeing that he was talking to a ghost. So it felt very like, I don't know, like very disjointed at many points and very confusing, because I picked it up after a friend on Instagram read it and said he did not understand it, and I'd heard about it years ago, but then only to read it and see that it was doing the same thing for me. Like the way the sections are broken up, they are not really connected to each other, so we are getting one while he's going to learn about the city, but then we sometimes now get another perspective of, let's say, somebody who is talking to who they are already dead. They are telling us about, let's say, a certain time in the city, and so it's all these dead people who is meeting at different points, who when he goes to meet them, that he's trying to meet his father, he meets a random person, but the person ends up dead because he's talking to someone and he turns and they are not there anymore. So they are telling him about what his father was like. His father was one of like the richest men in Kumala, probably the richest man, owned a lot of lands, but was also a very terrible person at the same time, kind of a terrorist in the town. And so it is him learning about this singular man, Pedro Paramo, who was kind of a force in the town for his wealth and but also for the deeds he committed during the time. And they are telling him about his father, but then about the father's hand in the town, about what the town was like at that point. And so what we really get, like I said, is kind of a tale of a city, but you do not really, you initially think, okay, he's going to see his father, but then the story just turns into something else completely. And just like the initial plot where he's going to learn about his father, like we forsake that, it's as if it's forsaking rather, and it's all pointing to like learning about this town. And I found this style to be very interesting. Like nothing, I've not read something like this where the writer plays with form and telling a story in such a different manner. And I think it's very praised for its style. And I think yes, its style can lose readers. It is not easy to follow the novel because like the whole disjointed thing, it's not even like you are getting many paragraphs to one side. Sometimes you just are taking in twists and turns. They not just ghosts, like it's so many occurrences hearing you, and you are not just seeing the ghost inhabit the city. When he's like meeting them from time to time, he's hearing things going through the place that feels like the town is alive, but the town is dead at the same time. And I found the prose to be very endearing, like very like memorable writing, very striking images at the same time. Although I do think like the disjointed nature of the style kind of hinders just like the ultimate effect it intends to leave. But yes, it can be confusing, but I do think you eventually get the point if you are following closely. And I mostly enjoyed it. I did not love it, I guess. It did not blow me away, but I enjoyed it for the most part, the mystical nature and all of that. So yeah, Pedro Paramo. I think I probably recommend it. It's a short work, and if you're a fan of maybe Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude, which I have not read, perhaps it would be nice to see like one of its inspiration. So the other book I finished was The Insistence of Beauty by Stephen Dunn. I think Stephen Dunn is a Pulitzer Prize winner, not for this poetry collection but for another one. But I really enjoyed this collection. It's like, you know, the thing with poetry, it's just how it moves you, how it touches the soul. And I felt moved and touched at many points reading this, looking at beauty, looking at love, especially looking at just the beauty of love, but also looking at loss at the same time, especially like romantic love, if we can put it that way. I was just hit. You know, it's like the thing with poetry, it's just how sometimes it's one line, it's one sentence that can undo you so much. And Stephen Dunn just has a way with words, with how he shows us images. I I loved so many poems here that I cannot even, let's say, choose one to read for you guys. But there's just so many good poems here. I don't really know how to express my thoughts on this, but I can say it is a very beautiful collection. It's the only poetry collection I own, and I'm very, very happy to have it as one of my books. So on this side, I'm going to like give an account of all the things I've been reading. I think this is the point where I've had the most books in rotation, where it has kind of gotten out of hand, and it has not been deliberate. It's just maybe I'm reading something else feels like it's calling me, so I start it, but I do not entirely abandon it, but I have to like keep up with the things I started before it. So I've ended up with 10 books I have in rotation at the moment, and some of them, like, I have been reading since last year. About 2 of them here I've been reading since last year, but I'm just going to run through them and tell you what they are, and maybe little thoughts on what I think about them at the moment. The first 2 are The Handmaid's Tale and The Grapes of Wrath. Ignore how my copy of The Handmaid's Tale looks now. I was kind of peeling that cover paper, but it went wrong. But yes, I've read this before. The Handmaid's Tale, I've read it before in 2022. One of my favorite books. This is a reread, and I'm at the 73-page mark. I've just been a bit slower because, like I said, life earlier, so it has not been easy to like constantly keep up, but just being blown away all over again by how Atwood kind of tackles this big grand concept she has, and showing us this new inhabited America, where women are like relegated to less than secondary roles in the society, and men are taking authority of everything. And it's just how mind-blowing it is. I think there was a point where I was reading this in January. I wrote on a story that it's how we think this is not possible to happen in our world today, but something like slavery happened. So really, if that can happen, what says that this is very far, and it does not even seem like out of the realm of reality? Because Atwood, in the introduction in this book, she kind of says that she decided not to do anything. She decided not to write anything in this dystopia that was not already existing. And you know, sometimes sci-fi dystopia, they kind of go outside the box, invent worlds, things like that, but that was not Atwood's intention. Her intention was to at least write within the confines of everything that had happened by the look of history and things like that. And so you just see the possibility, even things we are seeing today, you just see the possibility for this kind of world to occur in our present day world. And yeah, I'm just enthralled by it all over again, and I hope I can finish. This is March, so I hope I can finish it in this month, because I do want to read the sequel. That's one of the reasons for my reread, and it's been 2 years also. So yeah, The Grapes of Wrath, I am 152 pages in. A bit slower with this one. I think the start was kind of slow for me, and it was a bit hard for me to settle into, but I have eventually started like coming around to it more and more as it progresses. Like, there's just so much that hits you from it, and it's a really heavy book. I can say so far it has hit me at many points, not tears of course, but it's just like touching, seeing this displaced family. It's a group of displaced families from their land in Oklahoma, having to relocate to California in hope to find a job there. Like, they have seen that their jobs picking fruits in California, but we are following like a single family, and the family of the Jodes. They are deciding to relocate because they have been one of the families affected by this bank coming to claim the land that this community existed on. So yes, we follow them as they are deciding to leave their homes, relocate. I've not gone too far in, but yeah, I'm enjoying it so far, and I have about 300 pages left, which I'm trying to see how I can segment it for this month, so I do not have to rush it, because I've not been rushing it. I've been quite slow, but yes, I want to finish it this month, so I'll see how to pace it so I can, even if it takes the whole 30 days, I can finish it this month. I've also been reading Conclave by Robert Harris, and this I started reading recently because the adaptation is nominated for Best Picture, and I do like reading. I do like watching all the Best Picture films. I've been a fan of like the Oscar season for about 3 or 4 years now, thanks to a certain YouTube channel I found on here around 2021, if I'm not mistaken, and since then I've been following them. I have fallen in love like with this season with the film community even more. So yes, I also always like following the Oscar season, and when I see there's like a film with a book, I always like reading the book before and watching the film, and that's what I'm doing for Conclave, even though the ceremony is tomorrow and I am not done yet. But yes, I would like to see if I can finish it today. I've been enjoying it so far. It's kind of I don't know, people are classifying it as a thriller, and I don't know, I'm not seeing the thrilling aspect here, but you can get it has that kind of like mass market sense. It has this very specific type of published book, so it's kind of a mass market book, but then the thrilling aspect you can see, I think maybe I've not gotten there yet because I'm almost at the 100-page mark on my ebook. But yes, it's kind of, if it's a thriller, it has to be a slow burn thriller because that's what it's giving at the moment. But yes, we are following we are seeing through the eyes of one man called Lumeli. I don't know if to use that name for him because there are different names used here, but the Pope has just died at the beginning of the novel. The Pope has just died, and essentially a new Pope is to be chosen soon. So we are kind of seeing like this politics of choosing the new Pope in the Catholic Church and what it's like. And yes, although Harris does say at the beginning of the novel that, like, those notes that this is not like meant to mirror any pope who has existed or mirror any member of like the Catholic Church, any notable ones, that it's all fiction and all. But yes, he has used like similar names to real living popes just to amplify that vibe of like amplify the fiction of it. Yes, but kind of comparing it to, not exactly comparing it to life, but amplifying it with life, just so yes, maybe we can get something more real from it. And I do not know too much about the Catholic Church and its practices, but it has been, I don't know if everything here is how it exactly goes, but it has been interesting to see, and some things do not feel outside the realms of what can happen, not just in the church but in the world as well. So if you can just see that this can happen in the world, like, it's not very hard to believe. And it's just the idea of like, it's such heavy politics happening in the church, and it is, I don't know if you say it is just, I don't know, it just makes my head spin because it does not seem unusual that this kind of situation will happen where the Pope is dead and there's just, so it's just like vultures, vipers fighting and vying for the top spots, which is the spot of the Pope, right? And it's everybody trying to one up the other person. But yeah, I'm going to, maybe you'll probably see this in my wrap up at the end of the month. But yeah, I have also slowly come around to going back to New Millennium Boys by Alex Kazemi, which I've mentioned a bit through the channel. It's this kind of like transitional, it looks at that transitional period from 1999 to 2000 and how the men of that time were very horrible. Not even the men, the boys, the teenage boys of that time, what they were like, what they sounded like. So far there's really no like plot to it. It's just really a portrait of a time. That's what it feels like. And it's just how, like, just the voice, the tone of voice, the way they sound, it's just very raw, very like, it is harsh, the harshness of the way they are, and it's especially like white boys, so you can imagine. But I do not have too much to say about it at the moment, even though yes, I've kind of found it uncomfortable at points to read. But it's not even I take pride. I do think we should interact with difficult art, and I cannot dunk a whole book because it makes me uncomfortable. I think anytime I see reviews like that, it makes no sense. Maybe yes, you are choosing not to read it for that reason, and that's perfectly okay, but then it does not make the book bad or something like that. I do think the writing, even though I was not born then, I was not born in the US, I have watched films, so the writing feels very true to, let's say, what you have heard about that time. But yeah, towards the tail end of January, I started Slouching Towards Bethlehem by Didion, and this is my first Didion. And I think what pushed me to seek this out was because I read one of the essays in this book called Goodbye to All That. I think I was referred to it from Alex from What Page Are You On? He had like a Substack using this title, and he put a Didion quote from it in the Substack, and I eventually sought out the Substack and read it at a time where, like I said, I was falling out of my housing situation and had to move, and it just felt very pivotal for me as a 21-year-old, and seeing Didion talking about like that experience of being a 21, 22, 23-year-old in her book, not exactly, but kind of moving to New York for the first time. And I just felt so touched by the essay. And yes, it's really not everything that applies to me, but it's just the overall feeling, the overall sense of what it was trying to convey. And I decided to seek out the collection because I also really like the name Slouching Towards Bethlehem. I just do not know how she thought of it, but I find it very fascinating. And so far I've read like 3, if you count the one I've read before reading the book, that's 4, but I've read like 3 essays from the beginning in it, and it feels more like reporting. They are kind of reporting from like the 60s, I think mid 60s. So I don't know, I did not know that this was what I was expecting. I think I was kind of expecting more of like the personal that you get from the last Goodbye to All That is the last essay in this collection, but the first 3 I felt more like accounts of certain events in LA, of course, because they are set in California, and I heard she's a very California woman. So yes, I'm going to continue with it, of course, because while I will not say I am being hit by the ones I've read so far, it's interesting to learn about like what these events, these things she's reporting to us. So yeah. On a random night, I think rain had fallen on that night and everywhere was so cold, I decided to start Winter by Alice Smith, because I have said before I want to read them in line with the seasons as the seasons are going along, and I read Autumn last year. Yes, I did read it out of season because I started it in December, which was winter practically in the US, but let's ignore me. I did start this on that cold night, Winter, and yes, I've just read a chapter, so I don't have too much to say about it, but this is one of the ones I intend to finish this month. I also have Everything I Know About Love from a carryover reread from last year, and I think I'm going to finish this eventually. I kind of went on a high with it during a period when I started rereading it, and it just kind of died down, maybe because I've read it before, but sometimes I do get lazy with things like this. But it is everything I've said it is. I love it so much. I love it so much, and I'm enjoying it so much still, even though the recipes part and some of these like odd sections she puts in, I do feel they should have been cut out of the book. I felt so the first time. I feel the same way now. Then I still have the 90s by Chuck Klosterman, the SDM collection. It's kind of non-fiction on the 90s in America. Then I have The Best of Everything by, I don't know if to say her name is Rona Jaff or Rona, I don't know, but I'll put the name up here, maybe you'll see the cover. But I had a copy of this, but I did end up selling half of my collection the month before I was supposed to move, because I was not getting the money from anywhere, and I got a push to put them up for sale, and I put the ones I was not gifted from friends abroad. I put the ones I would maybe see here again, a lot of my classics, because those are quite easier to come by than the contemporary rates. So I put a lot of them up for sale, I think about 60, and this one was one of them. I had picked this up because I saw it was a New York novel surrounding 4 women, and I was immediately sold because I love anything female friendship, anything New York, and it was the day I was to sell it off that it just started to hit me. I would want to read it, and I started reading it. Then I read the first chapter on that day, so it has kind of ended up on this rotation. But yeah, thoughts will come maybe when I finish it. And the final book here I have is it's an arc of a short story collection I got about a year ago, but my time with the arc expired, so I could not finish it, and it's called Monarch by Emily John Tobias. And I am almost 100 pages in. I was almost 100 pages in. I finally got a copy again, so I intend to finish this. And yeah, but yeah, so far those are all the things I have been reading. What I read in January. I hope I did not do too poor of a job in it. I think I'm a bit rusty being on here, but I do plan to kind of return fully now that I have a place. And yes, I'm just going to starting my life back up again, because I think this is probably my first full year like having graduated. This is actually the start of it all for me, because last year, you know, I had my project, then I had the graduation in November and things like this. So this is like the first for it. And yes, I'm deciding to live alone, and it's not the easiest decision having work at the moment. Also, I'm just trying to slowly solidify myself, but I do miss you guys a lot. Please tell me what you have been reading, how everything has been, if you have read any of this from either of these sections. And yes, I will slowly make my way back on here, because I did intend to build my channel a bit more this year. So yeah, please like, comment, share, subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and maybe I'll see you in the next one.